What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Saturday, November 6th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 5-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I got a couple of value plays for you here at point guard. I like Jalen Brunson from the Dallas Mavericks playing the Boston Celtics, who have the 6th worst defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing point guards, Jalen Brunson has averaged 29.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 30.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.5 times value. He's 5,600 DraftKings salary, 400 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. And Jalen Brunson has scored 53, 38, and 17 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 36, 30, and 27 minutes. So I like Jalen Brunson here versus the Boston Celtics. In another value play from that game, I like Dennis Schroeder from the Boston Celtics playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Dennis Schroeder has averaged 30 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 30 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.6 times value. He's 5,400 DraftKings salary, 600 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. And Dennis Schroeder has scored 32, 17, and 29 fantasy points in his last 3 games. But I like this pick because he scored 40, 48, 28, 43, and 34 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Mavericks. So I like Dennis Schroeder here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay guys, it's time to announce the winner of our $25 weekly PayPal giveaway. And the winner is Aaron Brown. Aaron Brown, congratulations. You are the winner of this week's $25 PayPal giveaway. Please reply to our comment to collect your prize. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Devin Booker has averaged 39.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 32% usage rate. He's projected at 39.9 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 43 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 8,500 DraftKings salary, 200 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 225 points scored in this game. And Devin Booker has scored 41, 29, 56, 40, and 49 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Hawks. He scored 51 fantasy points last game, played 34 minutes. So I like Devin Booker here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Now another shooting guard that I like, here's a value play for you. I like Anthony Simmons from the Portland Trail Blazers playing the LA Lakers, who have the 7th worst defense overall. They give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Anthony Simmons has averaged 22.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 22.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 6 times value. He's only $3,800 DraftKings salary, $600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 219.5 points scored in this game, and Anthony Simmons has scored 22, 19, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 21, 24, and 29 minutes. So I like Anthony Simmons here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Bojan Bogdanovic from the Utah Jazz playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Bojan Bogdanovic has averaged 26.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 26.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $5,300 DraftKings salary, $200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 213.5 points scored in this game. And Bojan Bogdanovic has scored 34, 24, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 30, and 31 minutes. So I like Bojan Bogdanovic here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, another small forward that I like is Norman Powell from the Portland Trail Blazers playing the LA Lakers, who have the 7th worst defense overall. And although they've been pretty good defending opposing small forwards, Norman Powell has averaged 27.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 28.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.9 times value. He's $4,800 DraftKings salary, $1,300 more on FanDuel. So I love that DraftKings price. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 219.5 points scored in this game. And Norman Powell has scored 38, 41, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 32, and 29 minutes. So I like Norman Powell here versus the LA Lakers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like DeMar DeRozan from the Chicago Bulls playing the Philadelphia 76ers, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. DeMar DeRozan has averaged 42.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He's projected at 43 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 8,300 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 211.5 points scored in this game. And DeMar DeRozan has been on fire, scoring 53, 54, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 33, and 35 minutes. And he scored 53, 47, and 42 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the 76ers. So I like DeMar DeRozan here versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Now I also like Al Horford from the Boston Celtics playing the Dallas Mavericks, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Al Horford has averaged 39.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 40.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 7,600 DraftKings salary, the same price on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. Now, Al Horford finally had a down game last game, only scored 25 fantasy points in 29 minutes, but he's been on a tear, scoring 47, 43, 42, and 42 fantasy points in the 4 games before that. So I expect him to bounce back in a good matchup here tonight. So I like Al Horford here versus the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 44.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 44.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 8,700 DraftKings salary, 300 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 213.5 points scored in this game. And Rudy Gobert has scored 41, 49, and 37 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 32, 32, and 30 minutes. So despite the bad matchup, Rudy Gobert has scored 39, 38, 47, 54, and 36 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Heat. So I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, another center that I like is DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing centers. DeAndre Ayton has averaged 34.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 33.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary, 1,300 more on FanDuel. So I prefer that DraftKings price. But Vegas thinks there's going to be 225 points scored in this game. And DeAndre Ayton has scored 34 and 40 fantasy points in his last 2 games. And in his last 4 versus the Hawks, he scored 26, 36, 38, and 34 fantasy points. So I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the Atlanta Hawks.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.